Liam had always been the quiet one. In his small-town school, where popularity was a currency, he was invisible. He wasn't the star athlete, nor the class clown, nor the straightest student. He was just Liam. Thin, unassuming, and always on the edge of the crowd. He was the perfect target for bullies who needed someone to torment. It started small, snickers in the hallway, whispers behind his back. But over time, the cruelty grew louder and sharper. By the time he was 12, Liam couldn't walk through the school without hearing taunts. "Hey, twig boy, don't let the wind blow you away. Why don't you speak up, Liam? Oh wait, you don't have anything worth saying." The words hit harder than he let on. He tried to tell himself it didn't matter, but the truth was, it did. It mattered when they shoved his books onto the floor and laughed as he scrambled to pick them up. It mattered when they mocked the second-hand clothes his mom could barely afford. And it mattered most when they cornered him one day after school, pushing him against the locker so hard that he felt the impact for days. That night, Liam sat in his room, staring at the wall. He wanted to scream, to fight back, but he didn't know how. His mother, a nurse who worked long hours to make ends meet, had always taught him to be kind, to turn the other cheek. But kindness didn't stop the bruises, and turning the other cheek didn't stop the pain. As he sat there in silence, a sound from the living room caught his attention. It was the rhythmic thudding of gloves hitting a punching bag. His mom often left the TV on to drown out the quiet of their modest home. And tonight, a boxing match was on. Liam crept into the living room and watched the fighters on the screen. Their movements were mesmerizing. Fast, powerful, purposeful. They weren't just throwing punches. They were telling a story with their bodies, a story of resilience, strength, and defiance. For the first time in a long while, Liam felt something stir inside him. Could I do that? He wondered. A glimmer of hope. The next day after school, Liam walked past the old gym at the edge of town. He'd passed it hundreds of times before, but today, something made him stop. Through the grime-covered windows, he could see a few people inside, sweaty, determined, focused. A worn sign above the door read, "Ray's Boxing Gym, where fighters are made." Liam hesitated. His sneakers scuffed against the pavement as he debated whether to go inside. Finally, he pushed the door open, the smell of leather and sweat hitting him immediately. Behind the counter stood Coach Ray, a burly man with a gray beard and a permanent scowl. He looked up from a clipboard and raised an eyebrow. "What do you want, kid?" Liam shifted nervously. I want to learn how to box," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Ray snorted. "You? You're skin and bones. Boxing's not for kids like you." The words stung, but Liam didn't move. "I'll do anything," he said, his voice firmer this time. I need to learn." Ray studied him for a moment, then shrugged. "Fine. You want to be here. You clean the place after hours. Sweep the floors, wipe down the equipment. You do that, and I'll let you use the gym when no one's around." "Deal." Liam nodded eagerly. "Deal." The secret routine. From that day on, Liam's life changed. Every afternoon after school, he headed straight to the gym. While his classmates hung out at the park or played video games, Liam swept floors, scrubbed punching bags, and polished the mirrors. It wasn't glamorous, but it was worth it. When the gym emptied out for the night, Liam stayed behind, his heart pounding with excitement. He'd slit on a pair of worn gloves Ray had tossed aside and stand in front of the heavy bag. At first, he didn't know what he was doing. His punches were awkward, his footwork clumsy, but he kept going, mimicking the movements he'd seen on TV and from the gym's regulars. It wasn't long before Ray started to notice. Though he pretended not to care, he couldn't help but watch the skinny kid who refused to give up. One night, as Liam struggled to keep his balance while throwing a punch, Ray walked over and grabbed the bag. "You're doing it all wrong," he said gruffly. Liam froze. I'm sorry." Ray held up a hand. "Stop apologizing. If you're gonna do this, do it right." For the next hour, Ray showed Liam the basics: how to wrap his hands, how to throw a proper jab, how to pivot his feet. Liam soaked up every word, every movement, his determination shining through. Facing the demons. Despite his progress at the gym, life at school didn't get any easier. The bullies noticed the calluses forming on Liam's hands and the faint bruises on his knuckles. "What are you trying to be, Rocky?" one of them sneered during lunch. "You couldn't fight your way out of a paper bag." Liam clenched his fists under the table but said nothing. He wanted to tell them he wasn't doing this for them, that he didn't care what they thought. But deep down he did. Every jab he threw in the gym was a jab at the insecurities they'd drilled into him. One afternoon, after a particularly rough day at school, Liam arrived at the gym with tears in his eyes. He punched the bag harder than ever, his frustrations pouring out with every swing. Ray watched from a distance, arms crossed. "Who are you fighting, kid?" he asked eventually. Liam stopped, breathing heavily. "Everyone," he admitted. "The kids at school, the ones who push me around, who make me feel like nothing." Ray nodded slowly. "Then stop fighting them," he said. "Fight for yourself. Boxing isn't about proving something to anyone else. It's about finding out what you're made of. A new beginning." Liam took Ray's words to heart. Over the next few months, he threw himself into training with renewed focus. His punches became sharper, his footwork lighter. The gym became his sanctuary, a place where he could leave behind the pain of the outside world and discover his own strength. But he kept his training a secret. Not even his mother knew. He didn't want her to worry or to think he was putting himself in harm's way. It was his journey, his fight. One night, as he packed up his gear after another grueling session, Ray handed him a flyer. "Youth boxing tournament," he said simply. "You're ready." Liam stared at the paper in disbelief. Competing had never crossed his mind. "You think I can do it?" he asked. Ray grunted. "I wouldn't waste my time on you if I didn't." The decision. Liam went home that night, the flyer clutched tightly in his hand. He sat on his bed, staring at it, imagining himself in the ring. Part of him was terrified. What if he failed? What if he proved everyone right? But another part of him, the part that had been growing stronger with every punch, knew he couldn't back down. This wasn't just about boxing. It was about showing himself that he was more than the boy they saw at school. With trembling hands, he picked up his phone and dialed Ray's number. "I'll do it," he said. And just like that, the boy who had spent his life fading into the background took his first step into the spotlight. Facing the reality of competition. The decision to compete in the youth boxing tournament filled Liam with equal parts excitement and dread. For months, boxing had been a private escape, a place where he could channel his emotions without judgment. Now, stepping into the public eye meant exposing himself to scrutiny, risk, and the possibility of failure. As Liam handed the flyer back to Coach Ray the next evening, his voice wavered. "So, what do I need to do?" Ray smirked. "What you need to do, kid, is prepare like your life depends on it. Because in the ring, it does." Those words stayed with Liam as he began an intense training regimen. Mornings started with runs through the quiet streets of town before school. He'd wake up before dawn, his breath visible in the chilly air, his sneakers pounding against the pavement. At school, his muscles ached, but he pushed through the pain, keeping his secrets safe from classmates who still saw him as an easy target. After school, it was straight to the gym. Ray's training sessions were grueling. Liam worked the speed bag until his shoulders burned, sparred with other fighters twice his size, and did push-ups until his arms felt like jelly. Ray's tough love approach didn't allow for complaints or excuses. "If you want to win, you've got to earn it," he'd say, his voice gruff but encouraging. The weight of secrecy. As Liam trained harder, the weight of keeping his secret grew heavier. His mother, who had always been his rock, noticed the changes. "You've been leaving the house so early," she said one evening over dinner. "And you're always so tired. Is everything okay?" Liam hesitated. He didn't want to lie, but he also didn't want to worry her. "I've just been staying busy," he said vaguely. She raised an eyebrow, her concern evident, but didn't press further. Deep down, Liam wanted to share his journey with her, to show her how far he'd come. But he feared her reaction. What if she thought boxing was too dangerous? What if she made him stop? He couldn't bear the thought of giving up now. Overcoming doubt. As the tournament drew closer, Liam's nerves began to creep in. In the quiet moments between training sessions, doubts whispered in his mind. What if you're not good enough? What if you embarrass yourself? What if you lose? One night, after a particularly rough sparring session, where he'd been knocked down repeatedly, Liam sat on the gym floor, his head in his hands. Maybe this was a mistake, he muttered. Ray, who had been observing from the corner, walked over and sat beside him. "You know, every fighter feels like that before their first match," he said. "The fear, the doubt, that's normal, but you can't let it win. The real fight is up here," he added, tapping his temple. Liam looked up, his eyes filled with uncertainty. "What if I lose?" Ray shrugged. "Then you lose, but stepping into that ring, putting yourself out there, that's already a win. Most people don't have the guts to even try." Those words ignited a small spark of confidence in Liam. For the first time, he began to see the tournament not as a test of his worth, but as an opportunity to prove something to himself. The bullies take notice. Despite his best efforts to keep his training a secret, whispers began circulating at school. One of Liam's classmates had seen him running early one morning and told the others. Soon, the bullies were taunting him more than ever. "Hey, Rocky," one sneered as Liam walked into the cafeteria. "Heard you're training to be a boxer. What are you gonna do, punch your way through math class?" The cafeteria erupted in laughter, but Liam kept his head down and walked away. Inside, though, he felt the familiar sting of their words. Later that day, one of the bullies, a stocky boy named Tyler, cornered Liam near the lockers. "You think you're tough now?" Tyler said, shoving Liam's shoulder. Liam took a deep breath, his fists clenched at his sides. "I'm not looking for trouble," he said quietly. "Yeah, that's what I thought," Tyler scoffed. "You're all talk, no action." As Tyler walked away, Liam's resolve hardened. He wasn't training to prove anything to Tyler or anyone else, but the thought of one day earning their respect, or at least their silence, kept him going, pushing past limits. The final week before the tournament was the hardest. Ray pushed Liam to his breaking point, testing his stamina, speed, and mental toughness. Again, Ray barked as Liam threw a combination at the heavy bag. Faster, harder. You're not just hitting a bag, you're hitting every doubt, every fear, every person who ever told you you're not good enough. Sweat dripped down Liam's face as he gave everything he had. By the time the session ended, he could barely stand, but he felt stronger than ever. That night, as Liam lay in bed, he replayed Ray's words in his mind. For the first time, he began to see boxing as more than a sport. It was a metaphor for life. Every punch was a step forward, every setback a lesson, every victory a testament to resilience. The night before the tournament, Liam sat at the kitchen table, his hands trembling slightly as he rapped his knuckles. His mother walked in, her expression curious. "You've been working so hard lately," she said. "What's going on, Liam?" He looked up at her, the words catching in his throat. This was it, the moment to tell her everything. I've been training for a boxing tournament," he admitted, bracing for her reaction. Her eyes widened in surprise. "Boxing? Liam, why didn't you tell me?" "I didn't want you to worry," he said. "But I've been working so hard, Mom. I needed to do this. For me." She sat down beside him, her expression softening. "I just want you to be safe. But if this is something you're passionate about, then I'm proud of you. No matter what happens tomorrow, I'll be there. Liam felt a weight lift off his shoulders. For the first time, he wasn't carrying this journey alone. The calm before the storm. The next morning, Liam arrived at the venue, his heart pounding in his chest. The gym was packed with spectators, fighters, and the unmistakable buzz of competition. As he wrapped his hands and laced up his gloves, he caught sight of Tyler and a group of classmates in the stands. They smirked and pointed, clearly there to watch him fail. Liam took a deep breath, pushing their faces out of his mind. This wasn't about them. This was his moment. Ray approached, clapping a hand on Liam's shoulder. "You've got this, kid. Remember, it's not about the crowd, it's about the fight. Trust your training, stay focused, and give it everything you've got." Liam nodded, his nerves settling as he stepped into the ring for the first time. The bright lights, the roar of the crowd. It was overwhelming, but he was ready. As the referee called for the fighters to approach, Liam locked eyes with his opponent, a boy slightly taller and more muscular than him. The bell rang, and everything else faded away. The bell rings. The sound of the bell was sharp and immediate, cutting through the noise of the crowd like a knife. Liam's body tensed as he raised his gloves, his heart pounding like a drum. Across the ring stood his opponent, a boy named Ethan who looked every bit the seasoned fighter Liam wasn't, tall, muscular, and confident. The crowd roared with excitement, but Liam couldn't hear any of it. The world seemed to shrink until it was just him and Ethan. His hands trembled slightly, but he clenched his fists tighter, forcing himself to focus. "Keep your guard up," Ray shouted from the sidelines. His voice cut through Liam's nerves like a lighthouse in a storm. "Don't let him rattle you." Ethan smirked, his confidence radiating as he circled the ring. "You sure you're in the right place, kid?" He taunted, loud enough for the front row to hear. Laughter rippled through the crowd, but Liam ignored it. "This is your moment," he told himself. "Don't let him take it from you." The first round. Ethan wasted no time, lunging forward with a series of quick jabs. Liam barely managed to block them, his arms absorbing the brunt of the impact. The punches stung, but they didn't break him. He shuffled backward, keeping his distance as he tried to gauge Ethan's rhythm. The crowd's cheers blurred into white noise as Liam focused on his footwork. He remembered Ray's lessons: stay light, stay balanced, and don't let them dictate the fight. Ethan came at him again, this time aiming a powerful hook at Liam's ribs. Liam ducked just in time, the punch whistling past his ear. For a brief moment, he saw an opening and threw a quick jab of his own. His glove connected with Ethan's chest, not a powerful hit, but enough to make Ethan stumble slightly. A ripple of surprise crossed Ethan's face, and for the first time, Liam saw a crack in his opponent's confidence. "You've got this, Liam," Ray shouted. "Stay in control." Fighting through the fear, the rest of the round was a blur of movement. Ethan was relentless, throwing punch after punch, trying to overwhelm Liam with his aggression. But Liam didn't back down. He ducked, dodged, and blocked, relying on his speed and endurance to weather the storm. By the time the bell signaled the end of the round, Liam's arms felt like lead, and his breathing was ragged. He stumbled back to his corner, collapsing onto the stool as Ray handed him a water bottle. "You're doing great, kid," Ray said, wiping the sweat from Liam's forehead. "But you've got to start playing smarter. He's stronger, but you're faster. Use that. Make him chase you, and then strike when he's off balance." Liam nodded, his chest heaving. "I can do this," he said, more to himself than to Ray. Ray grinned. "Damn right you can. Now get back in there and show him what you're made of." The turning point. As the second round began, Liam felt a new sense of clarity. Ethan came at him with the same aggressive energy, but this time, Liam was ready. He danced around the ring, staying just out of reach, forcing Ethan to move more than he wanted to. With every missed punch, Ethan's frustration grew. His movements became less precise, his punches sloppier. Liam saw his chance. Ethan lunged forward with a wide swing, leaving his side exposed. Liam stepped in and delivered a sharp hook to Ethan's ribs, the impact reverberating through his glove. Ethan grunted in pain, stumbling backward as the crowd erupted in surprise. For the first time, Liam felt the tide turning. The fear that had gripped him at the start of the fight was replaced with determination. He wasn't just surviving, he was fighting. The crowd's reaction. In the stands, the atmosphere shifted. The classmates who had come to mock Liam were now leaning forward in their seats, their jeers replaced with stunned silence. Even Tyler, the ringleader of the bullies, watched with wide eyes. "Did you see that?" Someone whispered. "He actually hit him." Liam didn't notice the shift in the crowd, but it didn't matter. For the first time, he wasn't thinking about what they thought of him. He wasn't fighting to prove anything to them. He was fighting for himself. The final round. The third and final round began with both fighters visibly exhausted. Ethan's face was flushed, and his movements had lost their earlier sharpness. Liam, though tired, felt a fire burning inside him. He could see victory within reach. Ethan charged forward, swinging wildly, but Liam stayed calm. He remembered Ray's advice. Stay in control. Make him work for it. Liam dodged a hook, countering with a quick jab to Ethan's chin. The impact sent Ethan reeling, and the crowd gasped. Sensing his opponent's vulnerability, Liam pressed forward, delivering a flurry of punches that forced Ethan onto the defensive. But Ethan wasn't done yet. In a desperate attempt to turn the fight around, he threw a powerful uppercut that grazed Liam's jaw. The blow sent Liam stumbling, stars dancing in his vision. The crowd held its breath as he steadied himself, his legs wobbling beneath him. "Come on, Liam," Ray shouted, his voice cutting through the noise. "You've got this." Drawing on every ounce of strength he had left, Liam pushed forward. Ethan swung again, but Liam ducked, stepping inside his guard. With a surge of energy, he delivered a clean uppercut to Ethan's chin. The sound of the punch echoed through the gym as Ethan staggered backward, his legs giving out beneath him. He hit the mat with a thud, and the referee began the count. The victory. As the referee reached 10, the gym erupted in cheers. Liam stood in the center of the ring, his chest heaving, his gloves hanging by his sides. He had done it. The referee raised Liam's hand in victory, and a wave of emotions crashed over him. Relief, pride, and an overwhelming sense of accomplishment. He glanced at the crowd and saw his mother standing near the edge of the ring, tears streaming down her face. "You did it, Liam," she shouted, her voice filled with pride. The fallout. Back in the locker room, Liam sat on a bench, staring at his reflection in the mirror. His face was bruised, his body sore, but he felt stronger than he ever had before. Ray walked in, a rare smile on his face. "Not bad, kid," he said, clapping Liam on the shoulder. "Not bad at all." Liam grinned, the weight of his journey finally lifting. "Thank you, Coach, for everything." As they walked out of the gym together, Liam was greeted by a group of his classmates, including Tyler. "Hey, Liam," Tyler said, his usual smirk replaced with something that almost looked like respect. "That was impressive." Liam nodded, his confidence unshaken. For the first time, he didn't need their approval. He knew his worth. Reflection. That night, as Liam lay in bed, he replayed the fight in his mind. He thought about the months of training, the moments of doubt, and the courage it had taken to step into the ring. He realized that boxing wasn't just about throwing punches. It was about resilience, about facing your fears head-on, and refusing to back down. As sleep overtook him, Liam felt a quiet pride in knowing that he had found his voice, not through words, but through action. The morning after, the sunlight streaming through the blinds felt warmer than usual as Liam stirred awake the morning after the tournament. For a moment, he wondered if it had all been a dream. But as he shifted in bed, the soreness in his arms, legs and ribs, reminded him that it was very real. He sat up slowly, the memory of the crowd's cheers echoing in his mind. The victory was still fresh, but it brought with it an unfamiliar sense of responsibility. Winning wasn't just about the fight, it was about what came next. Downstairs, the smell of breakfast wafted through the air. As Liam made his way to the kitchen, he was greeted by his mother's warm smile. "There he is," she said, setting a plate of pancakes on the table. "My champion." Liam chuckled, a hint of embarrassment coloring his cheeks. "Mom, it was just one fight." "Maybe," she said, sitting across from him. "But it wasn't just about the fight, was it? You showed everyone what you're capable of. And I couldn't be prouder." Her words stayed with Liam as he ate. For so long, he had doubted himself, let the voices of others define his worth. But now, for the first time, he felt like he was in control of his story. Back to school. Monday morning arrived, and Liam braced himself as he walked through the school gates. He expected the usual whispers, the mocking laughter, but something was different. Instead of sneers, he was met with nods and quiet admiration. A group of classmates who had jeered at him just days before now looked at him with newfound respect. "Hey, Liam," one of them called out. "That was some fight. You were amazing." Liam smiled politely, unsure how to respond. It felt strange to be acknowledged by the same people who had ignored, or worse, belittled, him for so long. Even Tyler, the ringleader of the bullies, approached him during lunch. "I saw your match," he said, his usual cocky demeanor softened. "You've got guts, I'll give you that." Liam didn't know what to say. He simply nodded, his confidence steady but not smug. He wasn't fighting for their approval, but it felt good to see the change. A new kind of strength. The attention wasn't just limited to school. Word of Liam's victory spread throughout the small town. At the grocery store, neighbors stopped his mother to congratulate her. At the gym, fighters twice his age gave him tips and encouragement. But for Liam, the most meaningful moment came one evening when a younger boy approached him at the gym. The boy couldn't have been more than 9 years old, his frame even smaller than Liam's had been when he started. "Hi," the boy said shyly. I saw your fight. I get picked on at school too. Do you think you could show me how to box?" Liam's heart swelled with a mix of pride and responsibility. He knelt to the boy's level, a gentle smile on his face. "Of course, but boxing isn't just about fighting back. It's about finding your strength. Let's start there. Training the next generation." Over the next few weeks, Liam found himself spending more time at the gym, not just training for himself, but helping others. The younger boy, whose name was Noah, quickly became a regular. At first, Noah struggled. His punches lacked power, his movements were clumsy, and he often grew frustrated. But Liam saw something familiar in him, a determination that refused to be extinguished. "You're doing great," Liam told him after a particularly tough session. "It's not about being perfect. It's about showing up and giving it your all." Noah nodded, his confidence slowly growing with each session. Watching Noah's progress reminded Liam of his own journey and how far he had come. A community inspired. Liam's victory had a ripple effect far beyond the gym. At school, his classmates began treating each other with more kindness, inspired by his quiet resilience. The bullies who had once tormented him seemed to lose their power, their taunts replaced with reluctant respect. Even Tyler, who had once been Liam's harshest critic, began to change. One afternoon, he approached Liam in the hallway, his usual smirk replaced with something more genuine. "Hey," Tyler said awkwardly. I wanted to say sorry. For everything." Liam blinked in surprise. He had imagined this moment countless times, but never thought it would actually happen. "Thanks," he said simply. Tyler hesitated before continuing. "You showed me something during that fight. I guess I was wrong about you." Liam nodded, feeling a sense of closure. He didn't need Tyler's apology, but hearing it felt like a weight lifting off his shoulders. preparing for what's next. As Liam's reputation grew, so did the opportunities. Coach Ray approached him one evening with news that made Liam's heart race. "There's another tournament coming up," Ray said, handing him a flyer. "Bigger stage, tougher competition. You up for it?" Liam studied the flyer, the words Regional Youth Boxing Championship jumping out at him. The idea of competing on a larger stage was both thrilling and terrifying. "Do you think I'm ready?" he asked. Ray grinned. "Kid, you've got the heart of a fighter. The rest is just practice." Balancing the pressure. As Liam began preparing for the new tournament, the pressure mounted. His days were packed with school, training, and helping Noah, leaving little time for rest. One evening, as he worked the heavy bag, his punches slowed, his energy depleted. Ray noticed and called for a break. "You're burning yourself out," Ray said, handing him a bottle of water. "Remember, even fighters need to rest." Liam nodded, realizing the truth in Ray's words. He couldn't pour from an empty cup. That night, he made a promise to himself to find balance, ensuring he didn't lose sight of why he started boxing in the first place, facing the doubt again. As the date of the championship approached, old doubts began to creep back in. The stakes were higher, the opponents more experienced. "What if I'm not good enough?" Liam confided in his mother one evening. She placed a hand on his shoulder, her eyes filled with warmth. "Liam, you've already shown the world what you're made of. This isn't about winning or losing. It's about showing up and giving it everything you've got. That's what makes you a champion." Her words stayed with Liam as he continued his training, reminding him that success wasn't just about trophies but about courage and perseverance. The night before the championship, Liam sat alone in his room, wrapping his hands in preparation for the fight. The room was quiet, save for the sound of the tape stretching around his knuckles. He thought about how far he had come. From the boy who had once been afraid to speak up to the fighter who had earned the respect of his peers. He glanced at the photo of his father on the dresser, a man he barely remembered, but who had always inspired him. "This one's for you, Dad," he whispered, a quiet resolve settling over him. The grand stage. The arena was much larger than anything Liam had ever experienced. Bright lights illuminated the ring, casting long shadows over the rows of spectators. The hum of voices filled the air, a mix of excitement and nervous anticipation. Liam could feel the energy of the crowd in his chest, the weight of their expectations pressing down on him. He tightened the laces on his gloves as Coach Ray stood beside him, adjusting his headgear. "You've done the work, kid," Ray said, his gruff voice steady. "Now it's time to show them what you're made of. Remember, it's just another fight. Don't let the crowd get in your head." Liam nodded, though his heart was pounding. He looked out at the sea of faces, scanning for the one that mattered most. Finally, he saw her, his mother, sitting near the front row, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. When she caught his eye, she smiled, mouthing the words, "You can do this." Taking a deep breath, Liam stepped into the ring. The crowd roared as his opponent entered. A towering boy named Marcus, known for his aggressive fighting style and string of knockouts. Marcus exuded confidence, his every movement calculated and deliberate. As the referee called them to the center of the ring, Liam felt a wave of doubt. Marcus loomed over him, his glare intimidating. "You don't belong here," Marcus muttered, his voice dripping with disdain. Liam didn't respond. He had learned long ago that words didn't win fights. The opening round. The bell rang, and the fight began. Marcus came out swinging, his punches fast and powerful. Liam barely had time to react, his arms moving instinctively to block the onslaught. The crowd roared with each strike, the noise deafening. Liam knew he couldn't match Marcus's strength, so he focused on his footwork. He danced around the ring, dodging and weaving, forcing Marcus to chase him. But Marcus was relentless, his punches grazing Liam's ribs and shoulders, each one leaving a sting. By the end of the first round, Liam's breathing was heavy and his arms ached. He slumped onto the stool in his corner, sweat dripping from his face. "He's coming at you hard," Ray said, wiping Liam's forehead with a towel. "But he's burning energy fast. Stay light, stay patient. You'll get your opening." Liam nodded, his chest heaving. He glanced at his mother in the crowd, her expression a mix of worry and pride. The second round. Finding his rhythm. The second round started much like the first, with Marcus charging forward, his punches like sledgehammers. But this time, Liam was ready. He anticipated Marcus's moves, ducking under a hook and countering with a quick jab to the ribs. The crowd gasped, and Marcus hesitated for a split second, a small but crucial moment. Liam seized the opportunity, landing another jab before retreating. "You've got him, Liam," Ray shouted. "Make him work for it." As the round progressed, Liam began to find his rhythm. He stayed on the balls of his feet, his movements fluid and deliberate. Every time Marcus swung wildly, Liam made him pay with a counterpunch. By the end of the round, Marcus's frustration was evident. His punches were slower, his breathing labored. Liam, though tired, felt a spark of hope. The turning point. The third round was a test of endurance. Marcus, realizing he couldn't overpower Liam as easily as he had his previous opponents, began to fight smarter. He feinted left, drawing Liam into a defensive stance, before landing a hard uppercut to Liam's jaw. The blow sent Liam stumbling backward, his vision momentarily blurred. The crowd erupted in cheers, and the referee stepped in, giving Liam a standing count. Ray's voice cut through the haze. "Shake it off, kid. You're tougher than this." Liam took a deep breath, nodding at the referee to signal he was ready to continue. As the fight resumed, he focused on staying calm, refusing to let Marcus's power rattle him. Midway through the round, Liam saw his chance. Marcus overcommitted on a right hook, leaving his side exposed. Liam stepped in, delivering a devastating combination, a hook to the ribs, followed by an uppercut to the chin. Marcus staggered, his confidence visibly shaken. For the first time, Liam saw fear in his opponent's eyes. The final round. As the final round began, the tension in the arena was palpable. Both fighters were exhausted, their movements slower but no less determined. Liam knew this was his moment. Everything he had worked for came down to these final minutes. Marcus charged forward, throwing a barrage of punches, but Liam kept his composure. He dodged and countered, his gloves connecting with Marcus's body and head. The crowd was on its feet, the roar of their cheers blending into a single deafening sound. With less than a minute left, Liam dug deep, summoning every ounce of strength he had left. He feinted right, drawing Marcus into a defensive stance, before delivering a powerful left hook to the jaw. Marcus stumbled, his legs giving out beneath him. He hit the canvas with a thud, and the referee began the count. The arena was silent as the count reached 10. Marcus didn't get up. Victory and validation. The referee raised Liam's hand in victory, and the crowd erupted in applause. Liam stood in the center of the ring, his chest heaving, his arms trembling. He had done it. Tears welled up in his eyes as he looked out at the crowd, his gaze finding his mother. She was on her feet, clapping and cheering, her pride radiating like a beacon. As Liam stepped out of the ring, he was greeted by Ray, who clapped him on the shoulder. "You earned this, kid," he said, his voice filled with genuine admiration. "No one can ever take this away from you." The aftermath. The days following the championship were a whirlwind of congratulations and newfound recognition. Liam's victory became the talk of the town, his name synonymous with resilience and determination. At school, the dynamic shifted completely. The bullies who had once tormented Liam now treated him with respect, their previous mockery replaced with admiration. Even Tyler, who had once been Liam's harshest critic, approached him with an outstretched hand. "You proved me wrong," he said, his tone sincere. "You're tougher than I'll ever be." Liam shook his hand, not out of a need for validation, but as a gesture of forgiveness. A new purpose. With his victory came new opportunities. Liam continued to train at Ray's gym, but his focus shifted from personal success to helping others. He started mentoring younger fighters, teaching them not just the techniques of boxing, but the values it had taught him: discipline, resilience, and self-belief. Noah, the young boy Liam had taken under his wing, showed remarkable progress. Watching Noah's confidence grow reminded Liam of his own journey and the importance of paying it forward. "You're a natural, Noah," Liam said after a particularly good session. "Keep working hard, and you'll go even further than I did." Reflection and legacy. One evening, as Liam walked home from the gym, he passed the school where his journey had begun. The memories of being shoved into lockers and mocked in the hallways felt distant, like a chapter from another life. He paused for a moment, looking at the building that had once been a source of pain. Instead of anger or sadness, he felt gratitude. Those experiences, as difficult as they had been, had shaped him into the person he was today. As he continued walking, he thought about the lessons he had learned. Boxing had taught him more than how to throw a punch. It had taught him how to face life's challenges head-on, to stand tall in the face of adversity, and to believe in his own strength. The new normal. Life after Liam's championship victory felt like stepping into an entirely new world. He was no longer the quiet boy blending into the background, but a figure of inspiration for those around him. At school, teachers used his story as an example in their lessons about perseverance and self-belief. His classmates, who once mocked him, now greeted him with respect, some even asking for tips on boxing. Despite the recognition, Liam remained humble. He still walked the same halls, wore the same second-hand clothes, and carried the same quiet determination. Winning the championship hadn't changed who he was. It had only reinforced the strength he always had within him. "Liam, you're like a celebrity now," Noah said one day at the gym, his eyes wide with admiration. "Everyone knows your name." Liam smiled, ruffling the younger boy's hair. "It's not about fame, Noah. It's about the work. Remember that." The challenges of success. While Liam's victory brought praise, it also brought new challenges. Offers began pouring in. Local businesses wanted him to endorse their products, reporters sought interviews, and even a regional sports network expressed interest in featuring his story. Coach Ray acted as a buffer, helping Liam navigate the sudden attention. "You don't have to say yes to everything," Ray advised. "Remember, you're still a kid. Don't let anyone pull you away from what matters." But the pressure weighed on Liam. Balancing school, training, and his newfound role as a mentor left little time for himself. There were days when he felt stretched thin, questioning whether he was ready for the responsibility that came with his success. One evening after a long day, Liam confided in his mother. "What if I'm not good enough to handle all this?" he asked, his voice heavy with doubt. She placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "Liam, you didn't become a champion overnight. You took it one step at a time, and you'll do the same with this. Trust yourself." Giving back to the community. Inspired by his mother's words, Liam decided to use his platform to make a difference. He approached Coach Ray with an idea that had been forming in his mind since the tournament. "I want to start a program for kids like me," Liam said. "Kids who feel invisible, who don't think they're strong enough. Boxing changed my life, and I want to give them the same chance." Ray looked at him with pride. "That's a big responsibility, kid. But if anyone can do it, it's you." Together, they launched the Fight for Hope program, offering free boxing lessons to underprivileged kids in the community. The response was overwhelming. Dozens of children signed up, eager to learn not just the sport, but the values it instilled: discipline, resilience, and self-worth. Noah became one of Liam's first assistant trainers, a role he took on with enthusiasm. "You're really doing something amazing here," No said one day, watching as a group of kids practiced their jabs and footwork. It's not just me, Liam replied. We're doing this together. Confronting the past. One afternoon, as Liam supervised a training session, he noticed a familiar face entering the gym. Tyler, the boy who had bullied him relentlessly, stood awkwardly in the doorway, his hands shoved into his pockets. Hey, Tyler said, his voice uncertain. Can I talk to you? Liam nodded, leading him to a quieter corner of the gym. I've been thinking a lot about how I treated you. Tyler began, avoiding Liam's gaze. I was a jerk. And I'm sorry. Liam studied him, sensing the sincerity in his words. Why now? He asked. Tyler sighed. Watching you win that fight, it made me realize how wrong I was. You showed me what real strength looks like, and I want to learn from that, if you'll let me. For a moment, Liam considered the boy who had once made his life miserable. He thought about the lessons boxing had taught him, not just about fighting, but about forgiveness. Come back tomorrow, Liam said finally. We'll get you started. A ripple effect. Tyler's presence in the gym marked a turning point. His story spread quickly, and soon, other kids who had once felt lost or unsure of themselves began showing up, inspired by Liam's journey. The Fight for Hope program became more than a place to learn boxing. It became a sanctuary for those seeking to rebuild their confidence and find their voice. Liam worked tirelessly, balancing his own training with mentoring the growing group of young fighters. Each day brought new challenges, but it also brought moments of joy and connection. Liam watched as kids who had once been timid and unsure grew stronger, their self-esteem blossoming with every punch. You're creating something bigger than boxing here, Ray said one evening as they locked up the gym. This is legacy work, kid. Facing new opportunities. As the program flourished, so did Liam's boxing career. His championship win had earned him a spot in the regional finals, a competition that would draw some of the best young fighters from across the state. The stakes were higher than ever, and Liam felt the pressure mounting. But this time, he wasn't alone. His community rallied behind him, cheering him on at every step. Even Tyler and Noah became part of his training team, helping him prepare for the biggest fight of his life. You've got this, Liam, Noah said confidently. You're not just fighting for yourself, you're fighting for all of us. The fight of his life. The regional finals were held in a sprawling arena, packed with thousands of spectators. Liam's opponent was a seasoned fighter named Jake, known for his speed and precision. As Liam stepped into the ring, he felt a familiar mix of nerves and determination. He glanced at the crowd, his gaze finding his mother, Coach Ray, and the group of kids from the Fight for Hope program. Their support filled him with strength. The fight was intense from the start. Jake was fast, landing several quick punches in the first round. But Liam didn't let it shake him. He stayed patient, waiting for his moment to strike. By the third round, the tide began to turn. Liam's training and resilience paid off as he landed a powerful combination that sent Jake stumbling. The crowd erupted in cheers, their energy fueling Liam's determination. In the final round, with seconds left on the clock, Liam delivered a decisive uppercut that sealed his victory. The referee's count was a blur, but when the bell rang and Liam's hand was raised, the weight of the moment hit him. He had done it. Again. The aftermath of victory. The regional championship was a triumph. But for Liam, the true victory lay in the journey that had brought him there. As he stood in the center of the ring, surrounded by cheers and flashing cameras, he thought about the boy he had once been, the boy who had doubted his own worth. Back at the gym, the kids from Fight for Hope greeted him with hugs and high fives, their excitement contagious. You're a legend, Liam, Noah said, beaming with pride. But Liam shook his head. I'm just someone who refused to give up, he said. And so are all of you. Reflection and future. As Liam looked toward the future, he felt a sense of purpose greater than any championship could offer. Boxing had given him a voice, but his true calling was helping others find theirs. The Fight for Hope program continued to grow, becoming a cornerstone of the community. Liam's story inspired not just kids but adults, reminding everyone that strength wasn't about size or power, it was about heart. And as Liam stepped into the gym each day, surrounded by the sound of gloves hitting bags and laughter echoing off the walls, he knew he was exactly where he was meant to be.